There is a particular kind of loneliness that follows you into crowded rooms, sits beside you at family gatherings, walks with you through workplaces, churches, friendships, and conversations, and quietly reminds you that although people may be around you, very few seem to truly understand you. For many of the chosen, this feeling has existed for so long that it almost feels like part of their identity. It is not simply the experience of being alone. It is the experience of feeling different in ways that are difficult to explain. It is carrying thoughts that others do not seem interested in discussing. It is sensing emotions more deeply than the people around you. It is noticing things that others overlook. It is longing for meaningful connection while constantly finding yourself surrounded by relationships that remain at the surface. If this has been your experience, there is something important you need to hear today. The fact that you have often felt out of place does not mean there is something wrong with you. It does not mean you failed to fit in. It does not mean you were forgotten. Sometimes the reason you feel different is because your path was never meant to look exactly like everyone else's. Many people spend their entire lives trying to become acceptable to the crowd. They learn how to hide parts of themselves. They silence their convictions. They ignore the voice inside them. They trade authenticity for approval. Yet deep within, they remain disconnected from who they truly are. The chosen often experience the opposite struggle. Instead of losing themselves to belong, they struggle to belong because they cannot completely lose themselves, even when they try, even when they want to, even when they desperately wish life could feel simpler. There is something within them that refuses to fully surrender their identity just to gain acceptance. That resistance often creates pain. It creates seasons where you wonder why relationships seem harder for you. It creates moments where you look around and feel as though everyone else received a handbook for life that somehow never reached your hands. It creates silent nights when you replay conversations and wonder why you always seem to view the world differently. Yet what feels like a burden today may actually be evidence of a deeper purpose unfolding beneath the surface. Some people were designed to follow familiar roads. Others were called to explore paths that do not yet exist. Those paths are rarely comfortable. They are rarely understood. They often involve long stretches of uncertainty and isolation, but they also develop strengths that cannot be formed any other way. Think about the battles you have survived. Think about the disappointments that could have destroyed you but did not. Think about the seasons when nobody knew how much pain you were carrying. Think about the mornings you got out of bed with a smile while your heart felt heavy. Think about the nights you cried where nobody could see. Think about the prayers whispered into silence. Think about the moments when you felt forgotten. Those experiences changed you. They deepened your perspective. They expanded your compassion. They taught you lessons that comfort could never teach. Many of the qualities that make you feel different today were born through hardships that most people never witnessed. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Your patience was tested repeatedly. Your faith endured moments of confusion. Your endurance was strengthened in places where nobody applauded your effort. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence, when nobody was watching. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. There is a tendency among people who feel out of place to assume they are lacking something. They assume they must become more like everyone else in order to finally feel accepted. But often the truth is very different. Sometimes the discomfort comes because your spirit is searching for deeper meaning, while the environment around you is satisfied with shallow distractions. Sometimes your heart is longing for genuine connection, while others are content with casual interaction. Sometimes you are growing while the spaces around you remain unchanged. Growth often creates temporary loneliness. Every season of transformation includes moments when the old version of your life no longer fits, but the new version has not fully arrived. That space between who you were and who you are becoming can feel incredibly lonely. Yet it is often where the most important development occurs. Seeds grow underground before anyone sees evidence of life. Trees strengthen their roots long before they produce visible fruit. The same principle applies to your journey. Some of the most meaningful work God performs happens in hidden places. It happens during seasons when outward progress seems invisible. It happens during periods when you feel disconnected from everyone around you. The chosen frequently mistake preparation for abandonment. They interpret delay as rejection. They assume isolation means they have been forgotten, but many times the opposite is true. Some seasons are not designed to diminish you. They are designed to develop you. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. He saw the sacrifices. He saw the disappointments. He saw the effort you invested into people who never fully appreciated it. He saw the loyalty you offered. He saw the love you gave. He saw the burdens you carried. Nothing was wasted. Not every battle you fought was in vain. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. Even now, there may be parts of yourself that you have not fully recognized. There is wisdom inside you that was born through suffering. There is resilience inside you that emerged through adversity. There is compassion inside you that developed through heartbreak. There is strength inside you that grew through persistence. There is a quiet courage within you that kept moving forward, even when every reason to quit seemed reasonable. That strength matters. That endurance matters. That faith matters. One of the most difficult realities for the chosen is learning that being understood by everyone is not a requirement for living a meaningful life. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. There will always be people who misinterpret your silence. There will always be people who fail to recognize your value. Their inability to see your worth does not reduce your worth. A diamond remains valuable even when someone mistakes it for a common stone. Your value was never dependent on universal recognition. It was never dependent on popularity. It was never dependent on applause. The world often celebrates what is loud, immediate, and visible. Yet some of the most powerful things in life grow quietly. Some of the most influential people walk through long seasons of obscurity before their purpose becomes clear. Some of the most meaningful stories include chapters filled with loneliness, uncertainty, and waiting. Your story has value even if it did not unfold the way you expected. The detours mattered, the delays mattered, the lessons mattered, the tears mattered. The moments when you felt invisible mattered. They were not signs that your life lacked purpose. They were often the very experiences preparing you for deeper purpose. There is hope in understanding that feeling out of place is not necessarily evidence that you are in the wrong story. Sometimes it is evidence that your story is still unfolding. The loneliness you carry today does not define your future. The rejection you experience does not define your identity. The misunderstandings you endured do not determine your destiny. There is something deeply valuable within you, even if others failed to recognize it. There is something beautiful being formed through every challenge you survived. There is something sacred about the resilience that keeps rising within you after every setback. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. You endured battles that left invisible scars, yet you continued moving forward. That perseverance is not weakness, it is proof of extraordinary strength. If you have spent years feeling like you do not belong anywhere, remember this. Sometimes belonging is not about finding a crowd that mirrors you perfectly. Sometimes it is about discovering peace with who God created you to be. The moment you stop measuring your value by the opinions of others, you begin to recognize the quiet power that has always existed within you. The moment you stop chasing acceptance from people who cannot understand your journey, you become free to embrace the purpose developing within your life. The moment you realize that different does not mean defective, everything begins to change. Your uniqueness stops feeling like a curse and starts revealing itself as a gift. The qualities that isolated you may become the very qualities that help others heal. The struggles that made you feel disconnected may become the source of wisdom that encourages someone else. The pain that once seemed meaningless may become part of a testimony that reminds others not to give up. Your journey matters. Your endurance matters. Your story matters. And even during the moments when you feel out of place everywhere, you are not forgotten, you are not abandoned, and you are not without purpose. If this message reached a place in your heart that has felt unseen for a long time, subscribe to the channel and continue walking this journey with a community centered on faith, healing, perseverance, and purpose. May every message remind you that your story matters, your growth matters, and that you never have to carry every burden alone. One of the hardest truths the chosen eventually learn is that feeling out of place is not always caused by where they are. Sometimes it comes from becoming aware of who they are. There is a moment that arrives in many lives when a person begins to see the world differently than they once did. The conversations that used to satisfy them begin to feel empty. The goals that once seemed important no longer inspire them. The approval they spent years pursuing suddenly feels less valuable than inner peace. This shift can be beautiful, but it can also be incredibly lonely. The people around you may continue living as they always have, while something inside you begins changing. You may find yourself longing for deeper meaning, while others remain focused on appearances. You may crave honesty, while others avoid difficult truths. You may seek growth while others resist change. In those moments, it becomes easy to believe that you are the problem. It becomes easy to wonder why you cannot simply enjoy what everyone else seems to enjoy. Yet growth often creates distance between who you are becoming and what no longer aligns with your spirit. Many chosen people spend years trying to force themselves into places they have already outgrown. They remain in relationships where they constantly shrink themselves to make others comfortable. They remain in environments that no longer nourish their souls. They continue carrying expectations that were never truly theirs. Over time, this creates exhaustion. Not because they are weak, but because pretending requires enormous energy. Every day spent hiding your true thoughts, your true values, and your true calling slowly drains your spirit. Eventually, something within you begins resisting. The soul grows tired of wearing masks. The heart grows tired of performing. The mind grows tired of seeking acceptance at the expense of authenticity. That is often when the loneliness intensifies. You stop fitting into spaces that once felt familiar, but you have not yet found the places where you fully belong. You find yourself standing between two worlds. One world is comfortable, but no longer true to who you are. The other is unfamiliar and uncertain. This in-between season can feel confusing. It can feel like losing your footing. It can feel like wandering through life without clear direction. Yet many of the most important transformations happen precisely in that space. Consider how often growth requires separation. A child must leave childhood behind to become an adult. A seed must break open before it can become a tree. Every meaningful transformation includes some form of loss. Something old must be released, so something new can emerge. The chosen often experience this reality repeatedly throughout life. They lose environments, they lose relationships, they lose identities they once depended upon, they lose expectations they once believed were certain. Each loss can feel painful. Each loss can create the impression that life is taking something away. Yet many times those losses are creating room for something greater than what existed before. This does not mean every painful experience is easy to understand. Some wounds remain difficult even years later. Some disappointments still ache when remembered. Some prayers seem unanswered. Some chapters remain unfinished. Faith does not require pretending those realities do not exist. True faith acknowledges pain, while continuing to believe that pain is not the final chapter. True faith recognizes disappointment while refusing to surrender hope. True faith understands that some answers arrive slowly. Throughout history, many people who made a lasting difference spent seasons feeling disconnected from the world around them. They often stood apart before they stood out. They experienced rejection before they experienced influence. They endured obscurity before they fulfilled their purpose. What looked like isolation was often preparation. What looked like delay was often development. What looked like being overlooked was often protection. Sometimes God shields people from opportunities that arrive too early. Sometimes He allows seasons of waiting because certain lessons cannot be rushed. The chosen frequently struggle with this reality because they are deeply aware of time passing. They see others moving forward. They watch other people reaching milestones. They witness achievements, relationships, and opportunities unfolding around them. Meanwhile, their own journey may seem slower. The temptation is to believe they have fallen behind. Yet purpose rarely follows the timelines people expect. The most important developments often happen beneath the surface long before visible results appear. There may be parts of your character being strengthened right now that will support blessings you cannot yet see. There may be wisdom developing within you that future challenges will require. There may be emotional healing taking place that future relationships will depend upon. None of that work is wasted. One of the reasons the chosen often feel out of place is because they carry an unusual awareness of deeper realities. They notice suffering others ignore. They feel compassion others overlook. They recognize beauty in places others dismiss. They sense the struggles hidden behind people's smiles. This sensitivity can be both a gift and a burden. It allows them to connect deeply with others, but it also exposes them to emotional weight many people never notice. They often become the listener, the encourager, the helper, the person who carries more than they reveal. Over time, this can create loneliness, because those who give comfort are not always the ones who receive it. Those who understand others are not always understood themselves, yet even here there is purpose. Your ability to care deeply is not a flaw. Your compassion is not weakness. Your empathy is not something to hide. The world may not always reward those qualities, but they remain valuable. They remain powerful. They remain necessary. There are people whose lives have been improved simply because you chose kindness during moments when bitterness would have been easier. There are people who continued moving forward because you offered encouragement at the right time. There are people who felt seen because you took the time to notice them. Never underestimate the impact of quiet goodness. The world often celebrates dramatic achievements, but many of the greatest contributions happen in ordinary moments. A kind word, a patient response, a helping hand, a listening ear, a faithful heart. These things rarely receive headlines, yet they change lives every day. If you have ever felt invisible because your efforts were not recognized, remember that value and visibility are not the same thing. Something can be deeply valuable without attracting attention. Some of the strongest foundations remain hidden beneath the structures they support. Your life may contain contributions that others never fully acknowledge, yet they still matter. God sees what others miss. He sees the sacrifices made in secret. He sees the battles fought in silence. He sees the faithfulness that receives no applause. He sees the courage it took to keep going when nobody knew how tired you felt. He sees the strength required to remain kind after disappointment. He sees the determination that carried you through days when simply getting through the day felt difficult. That perspective matters because the chosen often judge themselves according to visible results. They look at their lives and focus on what has not happened yet. They focus on unanswered prayers, delayed dreams, missed opportunities, and painful losses. Meanwhile, they overlook the remarkable growth that has already taken place within them. They fail to recognize how much stronger they have become. They forget how many obstacles they have already overcome. They underestimate the resilience developed through years of perseverance. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. There is wisdom within you that did not exist before your struggles. There is courage within you that was formed through surviving difficult seasons. These qualities matter. They are evidence that your story is still unfolding. Feeling out of place does not mean you are lost. It does not mean you are failing. It does not mean your life lacks direction. Sometimes it simply means you are becoming someone your previous environment can no longer fully contain. Sometimes it means your growth has created a hunger for something deeper. Sometimes it means your purpose is pulling you toward places you have not yet reached. The road may feel lonely at times. The waiting may feel long. The uncertainty may feel heavy. Yet your journey is not without meaning. Every lesson learned, every tear shed, every setback endured, every prayer whispered has contributed to the person you are becoming. The difficult seasons did not arrive to destroy your future. They arrived to shape your character, deepen your faith, strengthen your endurance, and prepare you for chapters still ahead. You are worth far more than the moments that try to make you feel small. You are more than the rejection you experienced. You are more than the loneliness you carried. You are more than the disappointments you survived. Your story is larger than your hardest season. Your future is larger than your current struggle. And even when you feel out of place everywhere, there remains a place for you within God's purpose. A place where your experiences, your gifts, your compassion, and your perseverance all carry meaning beyond what you can presently see. If these words helped you remember that your journey has purpose, even during seasons of loneliness and waiting, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving encouragement rooted in faith, healing, personal growth, and hope. May every message remind you that being different does not diminish your value and that your path still leads somewhere meaningful. Perhaps the most comforting realization for the chosen is not that they will one day be understood by everyone, but that they no longer need to be. There comes a season in life when the endless search for validation begins to lose its power. After enough disappointments, enough misunderstandings, enough doors closing, and enough moments of feeling unseen, something profound starts to happen within the heart. You begin to understand that peace does not come from convincing everyone of your worth. Peace comes from finally recognizing your worth yourself. For years, many chosen people live as though their value is waiting to be confirmed by someone else. They wait for acceptance. They wait for recognition. They wait for appreciation. They wait for people to finally understand the battles they fought and the sacrifices they made. Yet that day often arrives differently than expected. Instead of receiving validation from every person who doubted them, they discover a deeper confidence that no longer depends upon external approval. They realize that the opinions of others were never meant to be the foundation of their identity. They understand that their purpose existed before anyone acknowledged it. They recognize that their value was present long before anyone noticed it. This shift changes everything. The loneliness that once felt crushing begins to lose some of its weight. The rejection that once felt personal begins to look different. The misunderstandings that once caused deep wounds begin to carry less power. Not because the past suddenly disappears, but because you stop allowing those experiences to define who you are. One of the greatest burdens many chosen people carry is the belief that something must be wrong with them, because they have always felt different. They spend years analyzing themselves. They question their personality. They question their choices. They question their worth. They compare themselves to others and wonder why life seems easier for everyone else. Yet comparison is often one of the quickest ways to lose sight of your own journey. You were never called to become a copy of someone else. You were never designed to walk an identical path. The fact that your story looks different does not mean it is less valuable. Some lives unfold through rapid success. Others unfold through steady endurance. Some journeys include immediate recognition. Others involve years of hidden growth. Neither path is inherently better. They are simply different. The chosen often forget that the qualities they admire in themselves today were usually born from seasons they once wanted to escape. The patience they now possess was formed through waiting. The wisdom they now carry was formed through mistakes and lessons. The compassion they now show others was formed through personal pain. The resilience they now rely upon was formed through surviving hardship. If every challenge had been removed from their path, many of their greatest strengths would never have developed. This does not mean suffering is enjoyable. It does not mean pain should be celebrated. It simply means that difficult experiences can produce meaningful growth. Looking back, many people eventually discover that the seasons they would never choose were often the seasons that transformed them most deeply. The heartbreak taught them empathy. The loneliness taught them self-awareness. The setbacks taught them perseverance. The uncertainty taught them faith. The chosen are often people who know what it means to continue moving forward without clear answers. They know what it means to trust during seasons when understanding is limited. They know what it means to keep believing after disappointment. This quiet endurance is one of their greatest strengths. It may not always feel powerful. It may not attract attention, yet it reflects a remarkable depth of character. The world often focuses on visible strength. It celebrates achievements, status, influence, and accomplishments. Yet some of the strongest people are carrying burdens nobody can see. Some of the strongest people are those who continue choosing kindness after experiencing pain. Some of the strongest people are those who continue showing up after repeated disappointments. Some of the strongest people are those who maintain hope while walking through uncertainty. If you have spent years feeling out of place, consider how much strength it took to remain yourself. Consider how much courage it required to keep believing there was purpose in your journey. Consider how much resilience it took to survive experiences that could have made you bitter. The fact that you are still here matters. The fact that you continued trying matters. The fact that your heart still desires connection, meaning, growth, and purpose matters. Too often, people overlook their own victories because those victories happened privately. They celebrate public milestones while ignoring private triumphs. Yet some of your greatest victories happened when nobody was watching. The day you got out of bed despite feeling overwhelmed. the day you chose forgiveness instead of resentment, the day you continued believing despite uncertainty, the day you showed kindness despite carrying pain, the day you refused to quit. Those moments matter. They reveal who you truly are. They reveal the strength that has been developing within you all along. The chosen frequently underestimate how much they have already overcome. They focus on the distance remaining instead of the distance traveled. They focus on what they still lack instead of recognizing how much growth has already occurred. But take a moment to remember where you once were. Remember the fears you survived. Remember the challenges you faced. Remember the seasons that seemed impossible. You made it through experiences that once felt unbearable. You endured moments that tested every part of you, yet here you are, still standing, still growing, still becoming. That reality deserves recognition. There is also comfort in knowing that not every season lasts forever. The loneliness you feel today is not guaranteed to remain forever. The confusion you experience today is not permanent. The waiting you endure today is not endless. Life moves in seasons. Winter eventually gives way to spring. Night eventually gives way to morning. Difficult chapters eventually give way to new beginnings. This truth does not eliminate present struggles, but it provides hope within them. Hope is powerful because it allows you to keep moving forward before circumstances change. Hope reminds you that your current situation is not your final destination. Hope allows you to believe that meaning exists even when you cannot yet see the full picture. Faith often works in similar ways. It does not always provide immediate answers. It does not instantly remove pain, but it provides enough light to keep taking the next step. For many chosen people, one of the greatest healing moments arrives when they stop asking why they are different and start asking how their differences can serve a greater purpose. Suddenly, the qualities they once viewed as burdens begin revealing their value. Their sensitivity becomes compassion, their solitude becomes wisdom, their perseverance becomes strength, their experiences become sources of encouragement for others, their scars become reminders of survival rather than symbols of defeat. This transformation does not happen overnight. It develops gradually. It develops as healing takes place. It develops as perspective grows. It develops as faith deepens. Eventually, many chosen people reach a place where they no longer see their journey as evidence that they were forgotten. Instead, they begin seeing it as evidence that they were being prepared. Prepared to understand others more deeply, prepared to carry greater wisdom, prepared to offer encouragement from a place of authenticity, prepared to appreciate blessings that might otherwise have been taken for granted. God has not forgotten you. Even during the seasons when heaven seemed silent, you were not forgotten. Even during the nights when loneliness felt overwhelming, you were not forgotten. Even during the disappointments that left you questioning everything, you were not forgotten. God saw the tears that nobody else noticed. He saw the prayers you struggled to put into words. He saw the burdens you carried quietly. He saw the courage required to keep going. Nothing about your journey has been invisible to Him, and while you may not yet understand every chapter, you can trust that your life still carries meaning. You can trust that your story still carries value. You can trust that your future remains unwritten. Feeling out of place everywhere does not mean you are destined to remain alone. It does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you missed your purpose. Sometimes it simply means your heart was created for something deeper than what you have encountered so far. Sometimes it means your spirit is still being guided toward places, people, and opportunities that align with who you are becoming. Sometimes it means that the very qualities that made you feel different will one day become the qualities that allow you to make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. Until then, remember this. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Not every battle you fought was in vain. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. Your story has value, even if it did not unfold the way you expected. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. And no matter how out of place you may have felt throughout your life, there remains a purpose for your journey. a reason for your growth and hope for the road ahead. If this message encouraged your heart and reminded you that your journey still has meaning, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving words that strengthen faith, nurture healing, and inspire perseverance. May these messages help you remember that you are valued, you are seen, and that your purpose is greater than any season of loneliness you have endured.